Nicola, it's wonderful to have you here today. It's fabulous to have you here. Thank you for agreeing to be interviewed. Can we start by, I'd love to explore your mission to empower 1 million people. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, I can. That mission to empower 1 million people, I didn't choose it. It kind of found me. I was doing some journaling one morning and that came through. And 10 years ago, that felt, I mean, it does still to a degree feel quite audacious. I had no idea and still don't know how I'm going to achieve it, but I'm on that path. So yeah, I really feel that coaching has the power to change the world. And so for me, that empowering other people is through the power of coaching. And I think empowered people then have in turn an ability to go on and empower others, and it creates that ripple effect. So it's a mission I've had for a long time, and yeah, let's see if I'm able to achieve it.
So, coaching has the power to change the world. That was something I read in your story on your website. Can you tell me more about that?
I mean, I don't say that glibly. I trained and qualified with Animas. I qualified in 2013. So I've been a full-time coach and in that coaching world for over a decade now. And I don't say that glibly, that coaching has the power to change the world. I've seen it firsthand. And I think it starts with self. So for anybody who's listening to this or read, if this is a transcription of our conversation today, perhaps you're thinking about training or you've been through your training. Those who have been through the training know that a transformational coaching training program like Animas, you can't start it and finish it as the same person. You go through your own transformation and changes, really positive, powerful changes. And then, of course, once you become a qualified coach and we're in that blessed position to be working with other people to help them transform and change their lives and be in partnership with other people to help them become the change that they want to be and then create the change that they want to see. And coaching is such a powerful experience and it's such a powerful modality, and I've experienced it day in, day out, coaching thousands over the last decade plus. And and if we look at that at a kind of macro meta level, coaching is a growing industry, which is a wonderful thing to see. It's a really powerful movement and it's an exciting movement to be part of, because coaching is such a force for good and it is empowering people in all different ways, whether that's in the corporate arena, whether that's within for entrepreneurs and all different size of independent businesses, whether that's in families, relationships, health. There's all these different domains that coaching is making its impact. And I think the more that coaching expands in the world, the better, because it really is a huge force for good.
Well said. I was reading your bio and noticed that you're a business coach and mentor, an international TEDx speaker, a published author, and an expert in the media. And I'm just wondering how how this journey began for you as someone who now has such a big profile and is having such a profound impact in the coaching community.
Thank you, David. And it's always interesting hearing somebody reflect my bio back to me now, because obviously, as I mentioned before, I've been in coaching over a decade. And my journey certainly didn't begin there. I could not have even imagined where I'd be today, even 10 years on. It was beyond my wildest imagination, especially as I can remember the exact moment that my coaching journey began, which oddly began in my kitchen on my knees, sobbing over a saucepan that was stuck at the back of the kitchen cupboard and I couldn't get out. And that, I know that sounds really weird, but I'd been going through quite a significant period of adversity in my personal life. My 17-year marriage had ended in 2010. I'd lived abroad most of my adult life, and I came back to the UK. I remember ringing on my parents' doorbell, two broken suitcases, more importantly, two broken children, and my life just felt shattered into a million pieces. And I'm sure theirs did too at the time. And it was just a really challenging time in my life. And forward-wind a couple of years, thought I was in a better place, but that saucepan was telling me otherwise. And I think that I had a sense of stuckness. I think that the saucepan was trying to tell me, you're stuck, this isn't working. And I can remember in that moment, like, that saucepan was really sort of the straw that broke the camel's back. And I just remember thinking, oh, well, saying out loud, actually, it was kind of like, just tell me what to do. Tell me. I knew things weren't right. I knew things felt very hard. I couldn't quite put my finger on it. There was a lot still going on in my personal life, although I didn't quite realize until I'd done the coaching just what was going on. Perhaps a bit more about that later. And I was doing work that, although financially was fantastic, numbers wise, it really wasn't, fulfilling, and really wasn't that kind of purpose led, meaningful, kind of soul feeding work that we all get to do today as coaches. The power of coaching, it's the power of the question. And so in that moment when I asked the question, I didn't have an answer straight away, but I heard whispers of an answer. And I can't remember the exact chain of events, but it led me to sitting in front of my computer, researching and coming across coaching that was a bit alien to me back then, over 10 years ago. And I remember it just hit me. I was like, this is it. This is it. This is my answer. I need to explore this. And that's how I discovered coaching and really felt the call. I do believe that a lot of coaches, a very high proportion of coaches, come to coaching with a feeling of, this is what I'm meant to be doing. It's a calling. It feels more like a vocation than this is what I want to be my new job.
You mentioned that it was only when you found coaching did it become clear what was going on. What was going on for you, Nicola?
I love that question. So I started my training with Animas after a very long period of, I'm doing my research. I did my homework. I checked out all the different coaching training providers, in person, online, hybrid. Had this great big kind of matrix of all their different characteristics and whittled it down to a couple, of which Animas was one. Chose Animas, and which felt a no-brainer decision at the time because of that personal touch around Animas, how they handled. I was like, right, I'm going to send an initial query to my shortlist and see how it comes back. And Animas just blew me away with their personal touch. So I signed up with Animas and started my coaching training. And it probably took me about 9 months to complete my Animas training. So I'd say probably about halfway through, a lot of the frameworks and tools and work that we're doing in our training, we're putting that into practice with our training partners. We've got the observers, and that whole process of training in these tools, techniques, and the insights that kind of training creates, not insights on a superficial level, really deep level, were starting to change me. We're starting to open up my eyes. We're starting to shift my perspectives on things, were starting to really connect me to what was really important inside of me. I know that I could sit here and spend 3 days describing it, but I hope that gives enough of the flavor. And so I was changing. What I was seeing was changing. What I was therefore prepared to, what I wanted to experience and was prepared to experience in the world was shifting. And so I started to really discover who I am and what I wanted and what I didn't want. And so part of that was the after my divorce from my ex-husband, there was another relationship, and it was extremely toxic, but I couldn't see it at the time. I couldn't see it. And coaching gave me a whole new set of eyes to see my world through. And I can remember more than one person saying to me, "Gosh, you've really changed." It was visible from the outside. And so, through the training and coming out of the training, my life just radically transformed for the better, because our outside world is a reflection of our inside world, and I had just, up leveled, upgraded, grown, evolved internally so much through that coaching process that, well, it was inevitable. Anything that didn't serve me was going to show up, and was things were going to change for the better dramatically, and they did.
Thanks, Nicola. Thank you so much for sharing. You mentioned that as you were studying, training with Animas to be a coach, that coaching shifted your perspective. I wondered, in what ways did it shift your perspective in addition to what you've said?
That's a very big question, but I think the shorter answer, the key bits that come to mind at the moment are, firstly, I remember the importance of values really, really hitting me very strongly. Our values really do drive, they sit at the heart of what's most important for us in life, and drive our thinking, our attitudes, our behavior. And so that values piece for me, getting really connected to my values and what's important to me in my life, was one of those real cornerstones of change, I'd say. The other bit that sits alongside that is when you do the deeper transformational work, it can only shift, as in dissolve, remove the limiting, hindering kind of subconscious beliefs that we hold on to. And that's why coaching is, a part of why coaching is so powerful, is we're often working with people at that subconscious level, and there are changes they perhaps haven't been able to make, or negative emotional thinking patterns they haven't been able to change or break, because it's at that subconscious level, and it's very hard to do by yourself. And I can remember, after I qualified with Animas, I did an additional 6 months work and training with my own mindset coach, who specializes in CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, approaches to beliefs transformation, did a much, much deeper piece. And I remember my mum saying to me, "Yeah, Nicola, I don't get it. You're trained in this stuff. Why do you need to invest, money in working with another coach?" And the only way I could describe it to her is a bit like, well, you can be the best brain surgeon in the world, and you can help other people, but you can't intervene on yourself. And I think that's where having a thinking partner who is trained in these coaching modalities is so powerful, because even if we're trained in those modalities or methodologies ourselves as a coach, it's very hard work to do on oneself when this stuff is at the subconscious level.
I loved what you said about the values piece there, Nicola. I remember when I started coaching that I had a values conflict that I discovered with sort of yearning for freedom and also safety and stability. There's kind of a mental tug of war that was going on inside. And it was only when I identified that I was able to come up with a plan of action, a way of living my life that kind of provides me the freedom and also the safety and stability. And the limiting beliefs piece, I remember identifying, oh, what do you mean? Just because my family aren't in business and aren't successful business people, that doesn't therefore mean that I can't be in business and that I can't be a successful business person. And just untangling that and finding that out helped me move forward so much more quickly.
Absolutely. And it sounds such a simple thing, doesn't it? Once we've put our finger on it, like, oh, yeah, of course. But when it's, under the surface and lurking like this ball and chain that we don't even know is there, it can feel a lot more complex and heavier. And yet it sounds so simple. And the conflicting values that you've just described is one that comes up very, very often with, a lot of my clients are also coaches. The coaching I started off in was a lot more kind of pure coaching mindset, but it was inevitable. I don't know how I didn't kind of predict it, but I'd somehow parked all my business and marketing know-how because I think I kind of assumed, well, everybody knows that. And then it was gradually I discovered actually that I'd say the majority of coaches aren't from an entrepreneurial business and marketing background, and they just want to coach. It's like, I trained to become as a coach because I just want to coach. I don't really want to do this whole business and marketing and how do I get paying clients piece. And so just very naturally and quite quickly I could see, oh, okay, I can help people with this. It's what I've done my whole kind of professional life. So that, why wouldn't I? That makes perfect sense. And that values piece that you were saying, the conflict between, we want the freedom. So lots of new coaches, we want to make a difference. We want to make that impact. We want to make a great living, impact and income. And the freedom and the flexibility that brings to be choosing when we work, how much we work, who we work with, what type of work. I mean, it's awesome. I'm completely unemployable now. I've been an entrepreneur for over 20 years, and that freedom to choose and not have to ask for, can I leave early today, or can I take those 2 days off to be there for a friend or my family. That's priceless, right? And equally, it can be very challenging, particularly if we're stepping away. We're in the early stages of stepping away from a career, paid employment, where we've had that security of a set salary, paycheck landing at the end of every month. And that can be quite a challenging thing that can hold coaches back initially from, not necessarily from doing the coaching training. Lots of coaches will do the training alongside their paid employment. And we can even start a coaching business where we have a transition strategy. I'll build the coaching business on the side whilst I'm still in paid employment, and that can work. Lots of my clients do that until they reach that point that it feels the right time for them to transition. And then there are others that the best strategy for them and the criteria is right for just taking that leap of faith and making that jump. But it can hold a lot of coaches back from getting started. Sometimes I talk to coaches, well, I qualified 3-4 years ago and, I haven't really got into it, but now's the time. So sometimes that can hold coaches back. So I guess that's something to just be aware of, and tuning into our own values and our why, the why for coaching. Why is it important to us? Why is it important for others? Why is it important for the world? And when we can tap into that why, that can be like the zip wire that will kind of take us over what can feel a bit of a chasm between where we are now and landing 2 feet in that world of full-time coaching.
Nick, I wondered if I could, you touched on it there. I'd like to dive more deeply into it. So, a challenge that a lot of coaches, myself included, have is around defining their niche. And I know that your niche kind of evolved and involved a meditation. And I just wondered if we could dive into that a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. The niche thing. It's such a big hot topic for particularly new coaches, and it's an important one. It is an important one. And the first thing I want to say is there are definitely different schools of thought when it comes to niche or not to niche. How necessary is it? And we will all hear those experts who say, oh, you don't need a niche, you can coach without one. And yes, you can. But I'm a marketer. It's run through my life. Marketing has run through my life like a stick of rock from uni, where I specialized, started my career in it, etc. So with my marketing hat on, I'd say, yeah, you can be a coach that doesn't have a niche and you can succeed. However, does it make it harder when it comes to marketing and getting initial traction? I believe absolutely. And I don't like to use the word niche. I tend to talk in terms of ideal client. Niche kind of takes us into this realm of myth that we have to define a kind of group of people that we want. Whereas it's often a lot easier if we just give ourselves permission to go, in an ideal world, who would the type of clients be that I would love to work with, who would light me up, that I'd open my diary, my coaching calendar is full, and I go, yes, can't wait, rather than, because it will happen, you'll get your diary full, and there's nothing worse than opening up your calendar and going, oh, and dreading working with our clients. They won't get the best of us. We certainly won't get the best of our coaching journey. And it's got to be sustainable, right? And that's where the magic happens, is when we're really excited and love the clients we work with. So it's thinking about ideal clients. And I won't go too much into depth about how we define our ideal client. It's a big part of kind of getting the right marketing foundations in place that we do. It's a lot easier than one imagines. And once we get that clarity around who our ideal client is, it makes the messaging piece so much easier, because marketing is, it's building relationships through having conversations in different formats. That could be over social media, in person, through speaking, through all sorts. And it's very hard to have a conversation with somebody and develop messaging that touches somebody's heart and mind if we don't know who we're talking to. And going out there with messages of, I'm a coach and I can help anyone with anything, which pure coaching could potentially do, that's not very compelling. It's not going to grab people's attention in this noisy world and go, oh, they're talking to me. That's me. They're reading my mind. They know exactly how I feel. Oh, at last, somebody who gets what I'm going through. I need to know more. Who is this person? Who's the person and the face behind this voice, behind these words that are really resonating with me? So ideal client is really important. And, it's worth remembering, as is the case with me, as is the case with many of my clients, it will evolve. It's not cast in stone, but it's about choosing a starting point and to be able to build that initial traction and be able to become visible and raise awareness that we exist, become known and build our own audience and get traction in a starting point that feels really, really good. And quite often it does evolve.
And speaking of your marketing wisdom and insights, I know that you've got some online resources, video training, you've got the Mpower Academy that you founded, and the Grow Your Own Coaching Business website. But I wanted to ask specifically, you mentioned it's important to have our why really clear as a coach. Why did you feel inclined, despite saying that you wouldn't, why did you feel that you had to write a second book?
Great question. Yeah, so the book thing, I never thought I'd write a book. And as you've just touched on, I work under two brands. So Mpower is really where my coaching journey started after I qualified. And as I've just touched on with this evolution of ideal clients. So Mpower very much focused on women. In fact, when I first started Mpower, it was specifically mums in business, and that's 10 years on, that's evolved. It's a lot broader. It's women, and it's all about empowering women. And I wrote a book for Mpower, for the Mpower audience, called The Invisible Revolution. It's a business book specifically written for mums in business, because women who have taken on that challenge of combining building a successful business whilst raising a family and being the primary caregiver, that presents a unique set of challenges and constraints. So I wrote that first book for them, and it took me a year to write. And it was very exciting because I got offered the publishing deal on a Friday, which if I'm honest, I was quite surprised and elated. And Graham and I went to Chester and celebrated and had champagne over the weekend. And then I woke up on Monday going, oh my goodness, I've actually got to write it now. I hadn't even started writing it. It was just a proposal of a concept that took me a year to write. And I know books can be written in shorter periods, but I really did pour my business coaching, mentoring, heart and soul into it. And so when I finished writing it, I was like, that's me done. I've written my book, big tick. I never expected to become a published author. That was about 6-7 years ago now. And I didn't think it's a big labor of love. And I didn't think I had another book in me. But books are a bit like, they have their own energy. And who is it? Elizabeth Gilbert talks about this she's the author of Eat, Pray, Love. And she's written a book called Big Magic, Creative Living Without Fear. And she talks about ideas, and books are ideas, and it's all they float around in space and time. And they need a host to kind of take them on and bring them to life. And so, this second book, it found me. It was like, Nick, you're the person that needs to kind of bring this to life. And I kept pushing it away. And I guess the time has to be right as well. And it comes back to my why. And I can see why I have to write this book. I can't not write this book because it's for coaches and it's very much about helping these amazing, talented, gifted coaches who are set to do so much good in the world and help so many people, but it's that marketing block of how do I find my clients, how do I get paying clients, that just stops them. And to me that makes me feel so sad, and it just can't happen. And so this second book is the bridge for, you know, this growing army of coaches to be able to nail that piece that I take for granted. I love marketing, and it's part of my secret mission is to help coaches. Ultimately, I'd love them to fall in love with marketing. They don't even have to love it, but when they can shift their energy around marketing and feel confident and they know what they're doing, it's actually really simple and it's actually really rewarding. And actually, a coach's marketing can be just as value adding, transformative, and have a positive impact. It's not that myth of marketing is not selling, it's not advertising, it's not being shouty or noisy or salesy or pushy or just trying to get people to buy your stuff. It's about positioning your unique value and the difference you can make in the world. And it dovetails with the people who are out there already waiting, needing the solutions that you bring to the world. And so that's what book 2 is about. And it's called Miracle Marketing for Coaches. It brings in the kind of marketing know-how, the strategic bit, but it also to help coaches go from struggle and overwhelm to skyrocketing their impact and income. This book covers the number one secret, the piece of marketing success that's often missing. It's the bit that's less talked about. So that's all I'm going to say for now, because it might take me another year to finish writing it. So
Thanks for sharing, Nicola. That was a very great answer to a very long question. I'm just wondering, as a coach myself who went through the ADTC with Animas, felt like I've done now, I've got my certification. Starting with marketing felt like starting all over again with this complete new art of, I have this great service to offer, but I've not the foggiest idea about how to advertise it. And, you know, seeing these things online about creating a six-figure income overnight and all of these sort of suspect promises. I'm just wondering if there's any sort of hints or tips in particular that you'd give to someone like me about where to start.
First of all, I thank you for sharing. I just want to say you are so not alone. Like all of the coaches that I speak to, I mean, I speak to hundreds of coaches every year, and maybe only 1% are, and I said this earlier, didn't I? Only 1% really are kind of from a business and marketing background and feel okay with that. So any coach who is going through that elation of I'm qualified, that's it, and it's a really fantastic, exciting, brilliant milestone. And then we kind of look to the future and go, oh, the reality of now I've got to get paying clients if this is going to be sustainable, if I'm going to make a full-time living from my coaching. And that's where the panic and overwhelm can set in. And like you said, a lot of coaches feel like I haven't got a clue where to start. I know nothing. So it's a very common place to be. So I just want to reassure anybody who is in that space, or remember it now, if you're just embarking on your coaching training, it's likely you will feel like that at some point, but don't panic. Where's the best place to start? Well, this is a big part of what I do. I'm a business coach and mentor. Grow Your Coaching Business was born out of this realization that there are hundreds of other coaches who didn't have the head start like I did in marketing when I was starting out, and I can really help here. So I've put together a free 90-minute video training. So my short and sweet answer would have to be start with this 90-minute free video training that I've put together. It's called How to Get a Consistent Flow of Paying Clients Without Ever Being Salesy, Pushy, or Inauthentic. And in that, it's on demand. You can sign up, get instant access, and you can learn the 3 kind of key industry secrets, really the 3 most important starting points, some of the myths I want to bust that will really help to understand how do I get that steady stream of inbound inquiries, and then how do I translate that interest into a paying client. And heads up, it does not involve offering free coaching sessions and leave them wanting more, hope that they'll sign up after. That can actually do more harm than good. And the training shares why and what to do instead. So that would be, in my view, a good place to start.
Thanks so much, Nick. We'll definitely link that in the article and in the description down below. So just as a final question, how can someone contact you? How can we reach you? And is there any final sort of closing message that you'd like to leave to the prospective and existing coaching communities? So the people who are considering training as a coach, maybe on the fence about it, and likewise people who've qualified and experienced coaches as well.
Oh gosh, yes. So those considering a career in coaching and exploring opportunities to train. I mean, coaching it's an incredible thing to be part of. It's this growing movement and it's so powerful, it's so rewarding. And when we've got the right ingredients in place, really the possibilities in terms of a coach in today's world are limitless. And so I'd say go for it. Coaching does have the power to change the world, and the world needs you, specifically whoever you are listening to this. Yes, it's a growing market. There are lots of new coaches training all the time. But the thing I would like to say is that there is room for everyone and there's so much potential. And in terms of, the Animas training, I want to give a big shout out to Animas. They are incredible. I find myself, I don't know, at least every year bumping into another Animas coach. And I always say, I wish I could go back and do the training all over again. It was such an incredible experience back then, over 10 years ago. And I would not be who I am, where I am, doing what I am today. And with this incredible, it's not even a, I look at my business and the work I do that makes me an incredible living. My big goal was to smash my corporate salary that I earned when I was in business consultancy, which I've done. And, I continue and it continues to grow. And it's an amazing thing. And I'm not saying 6 figures overnight in, 24 hours sat on a beach with your laptop. It's taken a while to get to where I am, but quite quickly I was able to match that corporate salary. So if I often say, if I can do it, anyone can do it. Yes, I had that marketing head start, but that is part of my mission, is to plug that gap for other coaches so that they can get out there and make their difference. And for any coaches who are already out there and established, isn't it great that we get to do this work that we do? And if you're struggling, nobody should have to struggle alone. So check out the link that we're going to share below, and always happy to have a chat and see how I can help.
I just want to say a final big shout out to you as well, Nick, for all the work that you're doing, the value you're adding, the enormous amount of work that you give away for free through your websites and also through the Coaches Uncaged Animas alumni community. I know you do a lecture there every month. I was present at the last one. It was fantastic. Absolutely so much value from that for me. So I just want to say a huge thank you to you.
Thank you, David.
Today.
I really appreciate that. And perhaps, if that's one other thing that anybody who is exploring who is the right fit for them to train with, I think it's really important for people to understand that the value that training with Animas is not just in the incredible ICF accredited coaching diploma that gives us these incredibly creme de la creme is the word, kind of coaching skills and methodologies and techniques. And so we're really well trained coaches, but it doesn't just stop there. There is this amazing community of Animas coaches, which is priceless to belong to a community of peers like that. And the Animas Coaches Uncaged that you just mentioned, that business platform with loads of complimentary workshops, sessions, trainings, all from experts that have been curated by Animas to I see it as it's all pro bono roles. Been part of the Animas business faculty since the beginning of 2023. And I really see see it as my way of giving back to Animas and really helping to be a supporter, a champion of these coaches that are starting out. So it's such a great place to be.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.